Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Teffo Longwe. This morning I would like to have a discussion around Longwe Twala, Teffo and Chicco Twala, Longwe's father. The three of them are involved in a lot of skirmishes between themselves. It all started, if you trace it, if you take a look back, it all goes back to November 2024. Sometime in November 2024, allegedly when Teffo was in prison and Longwe was also in prison, at the Johannesburg prison, Teffo recorded an affidavit from Longwe, in which affidavit Longwe made very shocking disclosures about what had happened on that Khumalo house on that fateful day. Important for this episode of the Daily Fix is that Longwe says the shooting of Senzo Meyiwa was done by Kelly Khumalo accidentally. That is what the content of the affidavit is all about. Now, following that, the making of that affidavit, we also saw recently Longwe make statements refuting that he ever met Teffo at the Johannesburg prison, let alone making that affidavit. In other words, Longwe, in that statement that was released to the media, was saying that Teffo is taking advantage of his situation because he's a drug addict, and that at the time he was at that time that Teffo says the affidavit was made to him, Longwe was actually in a private rehabilitation center or facility in Polokwane. Now, what has happened some 2 weeks ago, Longwe has opened a fraud case against Teffo in relation to that statement purportedly made by Longwe. Longwe's fraud case, in essence, says, I never made that statement. Teffo fraudulently made that statement and attributed it to me. The case has been opened at the Douglasdale police station in Randburg, and the police in the Douglasdale police station have actually acknowledged that such a case has been opened by Longwe. So that is the latest that we have around these people. Another interesting thing related to that is that only a few days before Longwe opened that case at the Douglasdale police station, Teffo had opened a case against Chicco, in which case he was saying that, Chicco has threatened him with death, and that, the hitmen who are out to get him, probably at the behest of Chicco. So there's a lot of, shenanigans going around between the three of them. They're opening cases against each other, and, it's all a makey situation. But remember, it all started way back when Teffo made the disclosure of 375. Because once he had made the disclosure of 375, Teffo then came up with this narrative that defined the 375 of how the gun that actually eventually killed Senzo Meyiwa came to be in that Khumalo house. Teffo was the person who came with the narrative that it was Longwe who brought that illegal and unlicensed firearm there. Started while he was in the house, he shot a bullet right in front of everybody in the sitting room. He was dispossessed of that gun by Senzo, who prevailed upon him to leave the room and ushered him outside. And Senzo came back with the same firearm and gave it to Kelly Khumalo for safekeeping. Kelly Khumalo, instead of, putting away the firearm for safekeeping, we are told, started playing with it and it fired 1 or 2 bullets. It's not very clear how many were fired. And one of them fatally killed Senzo Meyiwa. So the war that we are seeing now between Longwe and Teffo and Chicco, starts from there, because it was Teffo who sort of brought in Chicco and Longwe into the whole narrative of 375. Because you see, Chicco was not there, but immediately after Senzo was shot, one of the people that Zandi called was Chicco. Chicco was immediately on the scene, and there's always been a very questionable thing why Chicco would be the first person to be called. Like, I've always said in the past, Chicco is not medically trained. He has got no investigative skills. Once something like that happens, like when somebody like Senzo got shot, I think the next people that naturally people ought to think about are, the clinics and the hospitals, the police. But there we have it. Chicco was on the scene shortly after the shooting took place, when he ought to have not been there like the many other people who congregated there only to contaminate the scene. So that narrative was sort of sucking in Chicco into the whole equation. Although nobody says Chicco, Chicco is not involved. The only possible involvement of Chicco in all this is his ownership of that gun, because it is clear under the circumstances that Longwe had stolen his father's, unlicensed firearm. So that is the only extent to which Chicco can be involved. As for Longwe, having been in possession of that firearm, having taken it to the Kumalo house, and having fired a gunshot in front of everybody else, those are offenses of one sort or another. For instance, being in possession of a firearm in itself is an unlicensed firearm in itself is a criminal offense. So ever since the disclosure of 375, there's been this tug of war between Teffo and Chicco Twala and Longwe Twala, the son. Chicco, for his own part, has said, no, he has got nothing against Teffo. In fact, he made claims recently that he had even borrowed Teffo some money to buy groceries, given the fact that, you know how the man has been in jail for quite some time. And he wanted to bail out his family, so he gave him money for groceries and so on and so forth. But Teffo says there was no such thing. Actually, Chicco threatened to have him killed. So we see them opening cases and investigations are being opened. But the one thing that I always ask myself is, where does it all lead? This business of opening up a case and the police saying, well, we have got the case, we have registered the case, investigations are going on. These investigations that go on forever, right? Longwe just opened a case against Teffo. Teffo is available. Why would you take a case? Why would you take forever to have something like that dealt with? So the police will just, sit on these dockets after opening them, and God knows for how long. But that is the battle going on between father and son, and on the other hand, Teffo. So like I've always said, Teffo is now sort of on the sidelines because he's no longer directly involved in the Meyiwa trial after he was disbarred, but he's always in and around. He's always got a role to play in and around these issues, right? Longwe and his father, of course, will always feature. But Teffo will always also feature very prominently, because remember, that is the man who brought us 375. So that is the latest that I have for you this morning. Look into this, have a think about it, tell me what you think about it in the comment section as the clock unwinds to April 14th, when the trial will resume, and tell me what you think. Are these just side shows? But I think the side shows are very important, because the side shows can actually give you a broader picture of what is at stake here. So having said that, let me thank you for all the views that I'm seeing. Let me also thank you in a very special way for the subscriptions that I'm seeing. And please don't skip those ads. I won't know whether you skip ads or you don't skip ads, but my humble request to you is please don't skip them, and have a wonderful Sunday morning. Thank you.